Can you believe it? You're already seeing me on your screen again. You've seen a lot of me, haven't you? And before you saw me on YouTube, you probably didn't believe there was an education like this on menopause. Not only that, you probably weren't even aware that you needed an education on menopause. And now that you've started attending my Menopause University, you're probably shocked at how much you've learned and at how much you had all wrong before getting this education. Am I right? Before discovering these videos, if someone had said, you know, there's so much to learn about menopause and it's possible for you to easily understand all of it, you might have said, I'll believe it when I see it. Have you ever heard anyone say that before? Have you ever said that before? People say it a lot. Anytime they themselves haven't experienced something firsthand, they say, I'll believe it when I see it. So if someone says something they don't believe, they say, I'll believe it when I see it. If someone predicts something that has never happened before, they say, I'll believe it when I see it. If they hear a fact that is contrary to their own position on an issue, they say, I'll believe it when I see it. And if someone promises something that they don't expect to materialize, they say, I'll believe it when I see it. So the comment, I'll believe it when I see it, is really common. And it's not only common as a form of speech, it's common as a way of thinking. If you've ever heard, thought, or said, I'll believe it when I see it, you need to watch this video. And that's because I'm going to teach you how that way of thinking can get you into a lot of trouble when it comes to menopause. In psychology, this way of thinking is called the availability heuristic. The availability heuristic is when you believe anecdotes, testimonials, and individual dramatic stories more than actual statistics. And you use these familiar situations to make decisions rather than using actual statistics. For example, if I teach you that heart attacks are the biggest killer of menopausal women, and that women should worry more about heart attacks than breast cancer, and you respond with, but I know 3 women who have had breast cancer and none who have had a heart attack, that would be a perfect example of the availability heuristic. In essence, you're saying that until more of your friends, your little circle of friends, suffer or die from a heart attack, you'll refuse to shift your focus from breast cancer to heart attacks. In fact, that very example happens all the time. And that's because the women who have heart attacks typically die, and the ones who have breast cancer live to tell you about it. So the common mistake is assuming that breast cancer is of more concern than heart attacks simply because you've had more first-hand experience with it. I've taught you in many of my videos that heart attack is by far a more significant risk at menopause than breast cancer. Yet, most women refuse to believe that. They apply the I'll believe it when I see it principle. So both the availability heuristic and the I'll believe it when I see it comment are examples of believing something is more commonplace if you can find just one example of it in your own circle of acquaintances. And you are far less likely to believe something that you've never heard, seen, or witnessed before. But statistics take into account whole populations of data. So let's see, you probably know maybe 100 women. And when you use only those 100 women to determine the greatest risks at menopause, not only is your sample size small, it's also fairly homogeneous. The mere fact that the women you know live near you or have something in common with you or have some of the same lifestyle as you is enough to make the sample fairly homogeneous. But population statistics take into account the entire population of women. This is millions and millions, even billions of women. So why in the world would you ignore data based on billions of women and use your 100 acquaintances instead? I know I've mentioned this tendency to substitute statistics for your own experience in previous videos, but it creates such a big impediment for so many women that I needed to make a video dedicated specifically to it. Now, we are all products of our own personal experience, and it's only natural to focus most heavily on the things that affect you personally. So if you yourself have had breast cancer, you're obviously going to view it as a bigger threat than a heart attack. I am not in any way belittling your difficult suffering of breast cancer. If you yourself have already had a disease, of course it's your biggest risk. And of course you should weigh it more heavily than any statistic based on the entire population. But in situations when you merely know someone who has had breast cancer, unless that person is someone who directly increases your risk based on genetics, it does not warrant ignoring statistics. So if your own mother, your own sister with that same mother, or your own daughter has had breast cancer, then your risk is higher than average. But if it's a relative other than those 3 maternal first-degree relatives, your risk is no higher than average. And if the acquaintance who has had breast cancer is merely a friend, then it bears no significance for your risk at all. And unfortunately, this is the most common instance in which the availability heuristic overshadows statistics. In the last video, I talked about how fear can induce you to assess information emotionally rather than logically. The "I'll believe it when I see it" comment is often fear-based. When fear is involved, it takes a lot more data to convince you of something. And even when there is convincing data, fear is likely to win you over. Fear interferes with your ability to consider things rationally. As I've told you before, I don't care how you manage your menopause. This whole education is about empowering you to manage it your way. But I think it's important for you to know why you choose one thing over another. And it's important to know why you believe one thing more than another. The key is to distinguish what's making you respond one way or another to the information. No one has to know your motivations but you. It's the difference between using your heart and your head to make decisions. Is it what you feel that determines your decision? Or is it actual factual knowledge that determines your decision? Don't do something for the wrong reasons. That's like putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Okay, so the next time you hear or say, "I'll believe it when I see it," stop and think about whether or not it's appropriate. I don't want you putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable. And it just so happens that in the world of menopause, most women focus on all the wrong things. And the problem is that they suffer as a result of putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable. If you'd like me to help you apply both your personal statistics and population statistics to any aspect of your menopause, just schedule a one-on-one consultation. It's easy. You go to my website, which is menopausetailor.me, and no matter where you live, you can have a session with me. I do them on Skype, FaceTime, and Facebook Messenger, and I can accommodate any time zone. So keep watching these videos, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I will see you in a week. And don't say, "I'll believe it when I see it" to that, because you know I'll be here. Bye.